Good morning. This is Billy Storms, pastor at Covenant Church in Corpus Christi. This is my Thursday morning devotion, my thoughts about watching and experiencing with you this incredibly weird time that we're living through. And the story that came to my attention as I was reading and being human and being a follower of Jesus Christ was this moment that is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew in the 8th chapter. At the very end of the chapter, there is this story that after he had finished teaching people and he had been over in Capernaum and had healed some and gone through the storm at the sea, they finally get on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And when they came to the other side, in verse 28 of chapter 8 of Matthew, to the country of the Gadarenes, there were two nightmarish demoniacs who were a terror to that community, who came out of the tombs. And they were so fierce that nobody used the road anymore that was next to the graveside. And they cried out immediately, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God?" they said to Jesus. "Have you come here to torment us before the time is right?" Now a herd of many swine were feeding at some distance from them. And the demons begged Jesus, "If you cast us out of these two guys, send us away into the herd of swine." Jesus said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the swine, and look, the swine herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished and were drowned in the waters. The herdsmen who were responsible for that herd of swine fled immediately and went back into town, and they told everything that had happened and what had happened to the demoniacs. And look here, all the city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw Jesus, they begged him to leave their neighborhood. What a contrast to when the demons saw Jesus and knew that they were the ones who had to exit. There's something about good people that can't figure out what side of truth or joy and beauty that they're going to be on. Some background information about this. One thing that's rather odd, we know that Jesus has now entered Gentile territory. There was no good Jew that would allow swine to even touch their land, much less be in a herd and money-making process dealing with swine. They were unclean animals, and so it is obvious that Jesus now is in territory that for Matthew, a very Jewish gospel, would be uncomfortable for a Jew to find himself there. The Gentiles, according to the Jews, were the dogs. They were the goyim. They were the filthy ones, because they were people who did not obey the law of God. And yet here Jesus is encountering not only the territory of the dirty ones, but the most dirty of all, two men who were infected with demons that were crippling them and creating havoc for this town and sabotaging the commerce on that particular road. The other thing about this that is interesting to realize is that in the New Testament stories, one of the patently always evident thing is that there is not a demoniac that Jesus meets that doesn't know exactly who Jesus is. They spot him immediately. They call him out. They know who he is. Even though the good religious people who had studied the law couldn't figure out who Jesus was and didn't know what to do with him. The demoniacs, on the other hand, knew exactly who Jesus was. And the final thing that was interesting to me as I was preparing for this devotional was to realize and discover in my reading that demons love a scene when they leave. They need to have something dramatic that will display their last hurrah. And so the demons begging Jesus to send them into the swine was a desire on the part of the demons to really make a scene, to really make their presence known, even as they escape the presence of the one that they can't stand, who will ultimately have the last say. Because in Jewish apocalypticism, their understanding of the last times, one of the things that would happen in the Messianic age was that the evil spirits, the demons, would be judged and cast out and would be discarded from human history. They were no longer valid and worth the time of the Creator and the Redeemer of the universe. And so these demons, before their time was supposed to be up, knew that they were facing the Lord of history. And they said to Jesus, "Why are you coming here ahead of time? You shouldn't be here this early. We've got a right to hang around until the Messianic day." They understood their role. The thing that struck me about this is the fact that we Christians are in a time when our world is being infected and sabotaged, and there are places we can't go because there is something unholy, this coronavirus, that is keeping us from being there. And it dawned on me that sometimes we are more like the townspeople who really want the physicians and the medical scientists to tell us the roadmap ahead, that we forget that there is one who stands behind them, that ultimately all healing is a gift from God. And yet we don't really want the kind of healing. We want to be like the townspeople. We would like to be rid of these demons, but we sure don't want to hang around and have him who ultimately casts them out to be part of our community and part of our residence. The thought that struck me was that the demons Jesus Christ couldn't exorcise in this story, the one demons that he could not change, the one demons that were not responsive to his commands, were the kind of demons that infect cultures, that cause cultures not to take ownership for the ways that we turn a blind eye to people who are broken, who are marginalized, who are not our kind of people. We don't want the Jesus to come in and exorcise the demons of who we are as a people, given the assignment by God in the Great Commission to be the presence of Jesus in those broken, in those uncertain times. May we find today that God is meeting us and that he is wanting to use us to touch life and to bring healing to our communities, to not be afraid of the Jesus who casts out demons among us and the things that rob us of being like him. It is a good challenge for us. And I get to pray for you this Thursday. I think I have an audience behind me that has found her usual perch. So with her in my background and you in my foreground, I say a prayer for us. God bless richly my family. Continue to lead us and set us free from the demons that are crippling our nation and our economy and our lives and are causing us to be afraid of walking the roads that are haunted by that presence, that unseen presence, that undemonstrably controllable presence of the coronavirus. Continue to set us free as only you can, and the healing that comes through Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray. Amen. God bless you. See you Sunday.